Welcome to lesson 25. Go ahead and complete this first page of your math menu. All right, let's go ahead and move on to main dish part 1. This first section of your main dish, we're going to be turning, we're going to convert the decimals into fractions. Sometimes you're not going to be able to do both tenths and hundredths, and sometimes you are. For this first one, the decimal that's being shown is 3/10. So I can definitely fill out this first one, 3/10. And just because it's not in the hundredths place yet doesn't mean we can't fill this one out. There is an extra step that you can do to actually make this fraction a fraction that ends with hundredths. Remember that placeholder that we did, that we used with this 0 when we were comparing? If I was to add that 0 here, this fraction would actually be 30 hundredths. Let's take a look at the next one. 0 and 74 hundredths. This time, because our last digit ends in the hundredths, we can't do the tenths. We can only do the hundredths. So 74 hundredths. 5 and 18 hundredths. So this one ends in the hundredths, meaning I can't do the tenths. So to represent my whole number, I need to put a whole number in front of the fraction. And then 18 hundredths. 8 and 2/10. So to represent my whole number 8, I need to put it in front, and then 2/10. And then I'm going to challenge you. Is there a way that we could turn this fraction into a hundredths fraction? Yes, by putting that placeholder 0, and this now becomes 8 and 20 hundredths. So you'll notice it's the same value, just a different fraction denominator. All right, for this next one, we're going to practice converting decimals to fractions and then solving. So for this first problem, we've got 6 and 7/10 plus 2 and 8/10. So we're going to turn this into a fraction, turn this into a fraction, and go ahead and add these two together. I know that you could could just add these as decimals very easily, but we need to practice adding fractions like we've done previously in this unit. When I add mixed numbers, I stack and I add up the fractions units first. So this would get me to 15/10. That's improper. I'm going to pull out a whole and add it over here. 1 plus 6 plus 2 then is 9. So finally, 9 and 5/10 is my final fraction answer. Let's do the same thing over here. 18 and 5/10 plus 4 and 34 hundredths. So I converted both of those decimals into fractions. Now we know when we add up fractions that we can't add fractions that have different denominators. So I cannot add these fractions as they are right now. One has a 10 in the denominator, one has 100 in the denominator. So we need to create common denominators instead. Similar to what we did in our first few problems up here, I can easily transform this 5/10 into a hundredths fraction by putting my placeholder here, and this now becomes 50 hundredths. And now I can easily add up these fractions. So I have 18 and 50 hundredths plus 4 and 34 hundredths. I can add these up and get 22 and 84 hundredths. Go ahead and do these next two on your own. All right, let's go ahead and move on to main dish part 2. This time we get to add up the decimals like normal. So we're gonna stack these decimals and make sure that they're lined up by place value. So I'm gonna stack 118 and 2/10, and then I'm gonna put 54, notice my decimals are lined up, in 93 hundredths. In a case like this, just like we've been doing, we can put a 0 in this placeholder because this doesn't change the value of the number, it just extends it, so now we have numbers to add up together. And now I can quickly just go through. 0 plus 3 is 3, 2 plus 9 is 11, 1 plus 8 plus 4 is 13, 1 plus 1 plus 5 is 7, 1 plus nothing is 1. I need to drop my decimal straight down. And my final answer is 173 and 13 hundredths. Go ahead and do this next one on your own. All right, go ahead and knock out your dessert today. Make sure you're reading the directions. One of them is going to be adding fractions by converting them into fractions. Adding decimals by converting them into fractions. And then one is going to be just normal stacking up the decimals to solve. Good luck.